Okay, so good evening, everyone. Let's see here. Can you guys hear me? You should be able to hear me, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, what are we going to be doing today? Well, today we're going to start a new chapter. And the title of this chapter is called Software Engineering. Now, I looked at the PowerPoint and the chapter itself. Um, Software engineering by itself, it's a huge subject. And the subject, the part that we're going to cover are not a lot. Let me just put it that way. And there are many, many fields in software engineering. And I'm pretty sure if you guys are going to continue your education for a bachelor degree, I can guarantee you the first class you're going to be uh, taking in your four-year college, it will be the software engineering class. So what I did, I uploaded, and let me just share my screen. I uploaded a file in the mini project called se.pdf. If you open that file, you'll see like some sort of summarization of what software engineering is all about. Um, I know a lot of them, but I didn't have a chance to actually use those or work with those terms. They're more related to the enterprise aspect of programming and how do companies works and how do real projects works. Um, and you in the future, whenever you're going to start looking for jobs, you will always hear those terms, and so it's a good idea to have an idea about them. Usually, senior software engineering, software developers, who those are the people who are going to be responsible of applying those concepts and monitoring the performance and the utilizations of these concepts in big projects. We got the waterfall model, that's the methodology, the agile methodologies, the DevOps. I'm pretty sure most of you guys should heard about the DevOps before. Each one of those is simply different strategies of managing big projects. We have section for required engineering, software design, again, object-oriented programming, UML, you know these. Design patterns, this is one of the biggest deals and the most complicated deals when it comes to software engineering. And it's not like you're learning a new programming language. It's more like learning some tricks that can make your project really, really good. And there are many, many different patterns, of course. And if you go and read about them and learn about them and demonstrate them and learn how to use them, you will be impressed of how smart those ideas and those people who came up with those ideas are very, very impressive. Now, there is the architecture design, the MVC, which is a very, very famous one. Let me see here, module view control. This design is simply used a lot in web developments. Mobile applications, native mobile applications like for Android and for iOS. That's the module that they use. So most of the terms that you see here that I'm talking about, they're somehow related to how companies manage and work and produce a product. Quality assurance, sometimes you'll find a whole job title as a quality assurance. Software development tools, this is version control systems. Now, at this point, you as a student, you need to be aware of Git and GitHub. You need to have an account with them. You need to know and learn how to utilize them. It's a version control system. Simply, just to give you an idea in case you don't know, you create an application and your application is going to be hosted online in the cloud. And every time you make any change, your change is simply going to be kept and going to be saved. So as you work on a single project, you will have many, many versions of that project, and each version is associated with a date. So in case you just want to go backward in any of the versions that you created, you can go back and use it. So that's one of the tools that you will always see in job titles. They ask if you know how to use a Git and GitHub. So I here provided a long list of elements of of software engineering concepts. And again, I'm not going to ask you to memorize them or read them or go into the, but it's a good idea that you just have a very basic idea about each one of them. And then after that, you can find, if you want to get one of the points that I mentioned here and learn about it. I would advise here, if you want to pick one, go ahead and get familiar with the Git, because that's a very, very important tool. So let's put that on the side and let's go back to today's class. Today's class, as I said, it's called software engineering. And we're simply going to be covering two topics. One of them is about documentations, and the other one is about helper methods. Okay, helper methods, again, it's the term helper method. It's the term that the book that we're using came up with, but you can call it anything else you want. We'll see what the book means by helping method and how do they work. So that's what we're going to be covering today. So instead of me going through the PowerPoint, I decided that I'm going to demonstrate the whole concept of those 2 points in a project. So I'm going to go straight to Eclipse. And at Eclipse, we are simply going to start a new project. I called it Chapter 8. Let me just open the chat box, so just in case anybody want to type anything, I can see it. So in Chapter 8, I'm going to create a new project, and my new class, I'm going to call this new class Bank Account. So Bank, I know you guys don't see this small window, but I'm pretty sure you guys know what it looks like. I'm going to have the main method inside it. This is just a little bit of change comparing to what we've been doing so far. So I have a public class, bank account, and inside my bank account, I simply have the main method. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to push the main method all the way to the bottom. We're going to get to that point in a sec. So for my bank account, this is a project where I'm going to create a class called bank account. And from this bank account class, we're going to create objects. And a bank account, when it's going to be created, that bank account will have account number, and it will have a balance. And then we will have few methods. We can deposit to this bank account, we can withdraw from this bank account, and we can transfer from one account to the other. So those are the main operations that methods that we're going to create in this bank account. And I'm going to demonstrate later this helping methods after that. So let's start with the documentation. Every time you have a class, at the top of the class, it's very, very important that you start by documenting the class. Now, let's just put the author here, space, Abby, and let me just change this to an uppercase A. And after that, it's also a good idea to put the name of the file that you have here. So bankaccount.java. And then after that, we are going to put a description of this class. What is it? So you can type anything here. Bank account class represent a simple bank account with a few operations. Now, feel free to talk about these operations if you want. I'm just trying to save some time here. So this is me documenting. Of course, if I want, I can add date. What's today? Today is 10/17/2023. So this is very, very important at the top of your class to document. So this will give some information to whoever's going to be working on this class and to know what's supposed to be done. So here's what I'm going to do. Before I forget, I'm just going to continue and move all the way to the bottom. What you need to do at the end of each method or class, when the curly brace is going to be closed, put a comment here, end of main method. And then you put here, end of bank account class. Now, you may ask the question of what is the point of telling that this is the end of a main method and this is the end of the bank class? Because sometimes when your project is way too big, very, very long, you will see a lot of those curly braces. And whenever you see a curly brace, sometimes it's really, really hard to tell this curly brace belongs to which block code. So by documenting the end of each one of those curly braces, you are simply making the job of you first and whoever's going to come after you much easier. So when it comes to documentation, again, it's very, very helpful to put a comment at the end of each curly brace to indicate what is this curly brace, end of what? End of main method, end of account class. Okay, now with that being said, we can easily come here and start talking about the bank account. Now, as you can see here, the bank account is public class, and I will have an extra space here. And in this area, I am simply going to create two variables. So first variable, private, and it's going to be string, and we're going to call it account number. And we'll put semicolon here. And then after that, we're going to create another private. This time I'm going to go with double, and this is going to call balance. Now, semicolon, of course. Now, here's what you need to do also when it comes to documentation. At the top, since this is the field where we're going to specify the the data members, so it's important here also to put a documentation to describe what is this. Private fields to store account info. Okay, and then after that, this you tell, like, give me a short description about what is the purpose and what is the data type. We'll put here a unique account number, and here we'll put the current account balance. And once you're done with the part of creating the variables, oh, wait a minute, where is it? Oh, here it is. Let's have a place where we separate the data members from methods. Now, in the methods, what we're going to have, we are simply going to have one argument constructor. And of course, you can create a default constructor if you want, but to save some time, I'm just going to go with one constructor with some parameters. Oh, you know what? No, actually, I'm going to create a default constructor. Let's just go with default constructors. So there's no need for an argument constructor. So before we do that, it's very, very important that you give me a description about that constructor. So again, we're just going to come here and say this constructor. And you know what? Let me just finish writing the constructor itself. And then after that, I'm going to go and put the description for it. So it's going to be public. It's going to be called bank account. That's the name of the constructor. And then open a curly brace and close. And before I forget, end of default constructor. So what are we going to have? What are we going to do in the default constructor? Well, simply the idea here is that we want to generate a random number, and we want to assign that random number to the bank account. Okay, so we're going to have to create a random number, and this random number that's going to be generated, it will simply be used to be assigned to the account number. But there's one that's easy. I can start with it. I'll say this dot balance. Of course, I don't need to use balance. We'll set that to 0. That's very easy. And then after that, we need to start working. And of course, here, let's just put a comment here. Initialize initial the balance. 20. Now you guys can understand why I skip documenting when I'm working usually in the previous chapters, because documenting as much as it's important, but it takes time. And because a lot of cases I don't have time, I want to do it faster. But in reality, no, you should be paying attention to your documentation as much as you pay attention to writing the code itself. So starting from coming chapters, documentation is going to be something that I'm going to be looking for when I'm going to be grading your work. So now that we have the balance figured out, let's move on to the account number. How do we assign a value to the account number? What are we going to do? We're going to create a random number. So we're going to start with random. We'll call it, for example, rand equal new random. Now, of course, I have to import random. So automatically it will be added at the top. And now we have random has been imported. I think I'm not 100% sure, but maybe let me just try this. Rand.close. Yep. No, there is no random.close. Is it? Change it to close. No, there is no clone. Nope. I had a feeling that I needed it, but because he gave me this wavy line, but it looks like it just because I didn't use it. Okay, I just jumped into some conclusion. So now that I have my random project, object, I'm going to create a local variable. I'm going to call it account number, and this is going to be integer. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put rand dot next integer, and I'm going to put a number here, which is 9 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this is going to generate a random number from 0 all the way to 899999999. So it's going to be one integer value within that range. Since there is a possibility for the 0 to be added, we're just going to add a number here with 7 zeros to make sure that the value that's going to be generated, it's not. We don't want to take like we don't want to have a random number, account number that is less than this number. So it's going to start from this number all the way to a number that's going to be giving here. So put them all together is going to generate a random number. That number that we just generated is simply going to be used as the the account number. Now, this is a case
question.
where, yes, go ahead.
Is rand inclusive of 9 million?
No,
Like,
it's not going to include. That number is not going to be like you will get a value from 0 all the way to 1 less than the number that I put between the parentheses.
Okay.
So at this point, it's a good idea to explain why I'm doing this. So let me go ahead and do that. I will say here, generate a random 8-digit account number. Okay, so that's my explanation of what's coming next. Now, since I defined this the account number as a string, I need to figure out a way that I can convert account number, count n num, into the account number. And the method that we're going to use is string dot value of and in this area here, I'm going to put my account num. This here will give me, convert that number into a string, and is going to be assigned here. So you can see here that I have to go through a lot to be able to generate this random number. And because I decided that my account number is going to be treated as a string, and because I wanted to generate a random number, I cannot generate a random string number. Well, I can if I want to, but that's going to make it a little bit complicated. So it's easier to generate a random integer and then convert the random integer into a string. And that's simply what I did here. Now that I have both of them done, I can tell that my constructor is simply completed. At this point, it's a good idea to come here and put some description of that constructor to generate a new account. And then if you want, you can come here and put more descriptions about what exactly you see here, like it initialize the account with a random the account number with a random 8-digit numbers and 0 to the balance, which is it's simply copying this and I put it here. That will give me a description about what is this constructor simply doing. Now that I'm done with that, I have 4 methods that I talked about, and I said I'm going to be creating. One of them is deposit, and the other one is going to be withdraw, and the other one is going to be transfer to. So let's go ahead and create those three methods, and there's a 4th one that I'm going to be talking about later. So first of all, let's create the deposit. Public, and when you deposit a number of money, your balance is going to be updated, so nothing's going to be returned. So we're just going to go with void deposit, and simply when you're going to deposit, you're simply going to send money. So that's going to be a double amount. And of course, I'm going to build the method, and then after that, I'm going to go with the documentation. So what are we going to do here? In this deposit, we are going to check one thing here. If the amount is greater than 0, because you cannot deposit a value that's negative. So I'm going to come here and say if amount is greater than 0, then we simply can update the balance. So this dot balance plus equal amount, semicolon. Okay. And then after that, it will be a good idea if we can show a message to the user, system.out.print line. And the message that we're going to show to the user is going to be, let's see here. What do I want to say? Deposit. Put a $sign, and then after that, plus the amount, of course. And I'm done. So here's my deposit method. Now, it's a good idea to come here and you put end of deposit method. Okay, so that'll be number 1. And it's a good idea here also to put some documentation here. Increase the balance by the deposit amount. Amount. Well, there's no double M. So I'll just go ahead and put it as, take that and fix it. Okay, so here we go. This is a deposit. This is Joe, a message. This is just a message. And now it's a good idea to actually put some documentation for the deposit method. Let me just put some extra spaces here. Now here's what I'm going to type: deposit method. So let's put the specific specified amount. Okay, let's just here deposit instead of method. Deposit the specified amount into the account. So here's something extra we can do. Every time you have a method that has some parameters, you can describe the parameters here. And to do so, you put at para m. param. Okay, and now you start telling amount of amount. So the parameter amount, and we'll just say the amount to be deposited. So this is, again, something to consider. Whenever you have parameters. Yes, I heard someone with a question. No? Okay. Let me put this here. So since I have a parameter here, it's a good idea to actually put what is that parameter and just give a description of what it is. So as you can see here, as I'm going with this project, the documentation is making understanding what's going on in this project a lot easier. Now, let's go ahead and create the second method, which is withdraw. Public void withdraw. Now, withdraw, you are simply going to be taking money out of your account. So double amount. And this one also will return nothing. So let's go ahead and put a comment here. And of withdraw method. So withdraw method, here's this. So what are we going to do here? Now, let's just think about this logically. Whenever you want to take money out of your account, number one, you cannot take amount that is negative from your account. So we're going to have to come here with an if statement, and we're going to have to check two things. Very, very important. The first thing, the amount has to be greater than 0. And at the same time, you need to have money. The balance should be less, or sorry, the balance should be greater or equal amount. So you can actually get the money out. So if both conditions are correct, are true, you can simply start by balance minus equal amount, put semicolon. And this is where it's a good idea to put.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
How come we don't add double as a, or add balance as a parameter?
Where's that?
Like for withdraw, we have
Okay.
a double amount as a parameter. How come balance isn't also a parameter?
What's the other parameter? The
I'm
balance?
saying, yeah, why isn't balance
Oh,
a
the
parameter?
balance is a data member.
Oh, so you don't have to
Yeah, I'm using this data member. I'm checking. Here's the thing. Balance belong to the object. The amount is going to be passed to the object. So
okay.
when you want to take the money out of the account, you have to check the balance and see if there's enough money to take that amount out of it.
Okay.
This is one of the things, by the way, I see a lot of students get confused with. You have to be able to distinguish between what is a data member and what is a parameter and what is a local variable. So for example, this is a member. So you can have access to it anywhere in your project, but amount here is a parameter, so you can use it only here. And this amount that you see here can only be used here, even though they share the same name, but they're two different variables. And here's an example of a local variable, integer account num, which again, it's only be usable in this area. You cannot take access to it here or here. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's put a comment here. We'll say decrease the balance by the withdraw amount. Okay, so, and of course, after that, it will be a good idea to print a message. So I'm just going to copy the message from here, put it here, and will be the message in this case. We'll say instead of deposit, withdraw. And that's the amount. It's going to be withdraw. So here we go. This is it. Now that I'm done with it, I can come here and create the documentation for it. And we're going to say withdraw. Withdraw what? The specified amount out from the deposit. From the yes, from the account. Okay. Now at this point also, just like how we have the amount, we can have it here as well. To be withdrawn. Come on. Okay, so here we go. This is me finishing the documentation for my second method. Now my fourth method, which is going to be a transfer method. Now for the transfer method, let's just have an idea. You are going to be passing an account number that is supposed to receive the money, and for example, you will have two accounts. Your account is trying to transfer money to another account, so you need to have that another account information, and also you need to have the amount that you're going to try to transfer to that other account. So what we're going to do here, we're going to have another public method. Nothing's going to be returned, and it's going to be called transfer to. Transfer to. Now, here's the parameters. We're going to have two parameters. First of all, the first one, which is the bank account that's going to receive. So we're going to call him receiver, recipient instead. And we have another parameter, which is the amount. Okay, now we're going to do the documentation in a sec. So let's go ahead and put the space for it. This here is going to be the end of transfer method. Okay, and now for you to be able to transfer money from one account to the other, we really don't care about the account that's going to receive the amount of money as much as we care about, do you have enough to actually send the money to the other account? So just like how when you were trying to take money out of your account, you have to make sure that the amount is actually positive and you do have that amount of money. So I'm going to start copying the same if statement that I have here. And we're going to close that, of course. So here's how it's going to happen. Number one, we are going to take that amount out of our account. And then we're going to take the amount and we deposit it in the other account. And then after that, we are going to show a message. So first of all, we are going to balance for my current object minus equal amount. After that, we are going to deposit that amount, the same amount of money. After you take it out of your account, you're going to deposit into this account that's supposed to receive it. So we're going to copy here, dot deposit. And we're going to put amount here. So first of all, you take the money out of your account and then you add it to the other account. Then after that, you're going to have to print a message. So let's go ahead and copy this print line message. And let's put a good message here. So what's going to be here? We are going to say transfer. Transferred. And we'll put a $sign plus amount. And then plus, and we'll just put space to account space plus, and then after that, we want to know the account number of the other one. So and Control V dot, where is it? Account number. That's what we're going to try to have access to. Dot account number, Control V, and put a semicolon here. So here's the transfer method. What are we doing here? I'm taking money from the object. Let's just so we can know what we're talking about. This dot balance, we're going to take the amount of the object balance and we're going to pass it and deposit it to this object. And then after that, we're going to show a message of we transferred the amount to the account of the other account. So money is going to be taken from your account to that account. Now let's go ahead and talk about documentation. In this area here, it's a good idea to come here and just say decrease the sender balance. Okay, sender's balance. And here, deposit or increase balance. Balance. So I got those two documented, and this is just a print method. And here in this area, let's start documenting this. Transfer the specified amount from this account to another account. Specified amount. Okay. Now here's the thing. We do have two parameters here. So let's go ahead and enter them. Parameter. The first one is simply the account that received the money. So we can here put a description. Bank account. And then after that, the second one is the amount itself. So amount. And we can also the amount to be transferred. Okay, so here it is. This is the documentation for this method. So now I have my three methods here. Of course, feel free to put the getters, the setters if you want. I'm just trying to save some time, so I'm going to skip that. So we are doing good so far. Let's see. I just want to take some space out. And let's come here. Right after I'm done creating those three methods, let's see here. Let's have a method to display the information of the bank accounts. Of course, I can create a method called to string, or I can create a method called display balance. Let's go ahead and create, let me just go ahead and generate that toString method. Okay. Inherent methods. Let's see here if I put that, generate. And here it is. So this is my toString. So he's going to show it. Now, I don't like the format that this toString is simply going to get class. I don't need the class. Yeah, see, a lot of what you see here, I simply don't need it. So bank account, I'm just going to change it to return. And I'm going to take all this out. So what we're going to do here, first of all, let's go ahead for the documentation. Add the documentation. And I explained what is this override is coming from, because we inherit the object Java object class, and there is a method there it's called toString, and we're going to override it. Simply means we are changing it. So that's why this is coming from. This is again just a notification for whoever's reading this project that this method here toString actually does exist and we're changing it. Okay, so we'll just say return.
Can there be like multiple toStrings or just one?
You can have multiple toStrings, but for you to have multiple toStrings, you need to have different number of parameters. Like you see this one that has no parameters. If you want to have another toStrings, you can do, but you're gonna have to put something inside so the Java compiler can distinguish between them. Does that help?
Got it.
Okay.
Couldn't you name the two strings different things?
If you name it different thing, you will not be able to use it the way that I want to use it.
Okay.
Like inside the main method, if you just type system.out.println and you put the object, if you don't have the toString, it's not going to work. It's just going to show you the memory location of the object.
No, but I was saying like if you want to make multiple two string to display the data
Oh
differently.
yeah, you can have
name it
multiple.
like
You can just call them different
weeks.
names and
Yeah.
call them based on what you want it to be printed.
Okay.
So here we go. Let's just put here, I will say this method or this, okay, to string method return bank account information in a form of a string. In a form of a string. In a form of a string. Okay, now a thing that you have to put here, this is a little bit different, at return. Okay, at return, whenever you have a method that's going to return something, just like how we have parameters here that we describe with the parameters, you just have to at return and just describe return what? Simply return string. Presenting bank account info. Okay, so we're going to return a string. So what I can come here, I'm just going to create a string, call it str, set it to nothing, and then str plus equal, and we're going to put account number backslash bank account number plus double quotation backslash n semicolon, and let's just put a dot here, and then after that str again plus equal balance plus balance plus I'll just put a dot at this point, semicolon, and of course after that return str, and this is my string method. Okay, at this point I can tell that I am done with my of course I forgot end of to string method. And at this point, it should work with no problems. Let me save it. And I can come here and start, let's give it a test. So we're going to create two objects, and we're going to transfer some money to them, like deposit some money of them. And then we're going to display the information. Then we're going to take some money out of it. We're going to display the information. And then after that, we're going to transfer some money from one account to the other. And then we display both information and see if it's going to work. At this point, I would just say that the whole time I would just more focusing on the documentation of the code. And again, this is something that when you apply for a job, you actually will be judged based on that, because they want to know if you're going to be producing a clean code, a code that's easier for everybody to read or not. Now, as I said, it's really not that complicated to add documentation for any project. And another piece of advice, again, if you do the documentation as you write the code, it will be a lot easier than completing the code and going back for the documentation. Because you may not have the patience to go through all the code and try to document everything. But if you document everything as you go, it will make it a lot easier. So this is the main method. So I'll just put a comment here for that. Main method. What are we going to use the main method to demo the bank account class and test the methods using two objects, bank account objects. So I'll go ahead and create two accounts. So bank account, let's call this one, what do I want to call it? I want to call it account 1 equal new bank account, semicolon, and semicolon, not here. So this is my first account. Let's create another one. And we'll call this one account 2. Okay, so here's my bank account 1, bank account 2. Let's start depositing some account 1 dot deposit. And let's put, let's say, $10,000 here. Look at this, there's an I here. Okay, after that, I will say system dot out dot print line, and let's put account 1 semicolon. Now it's a good idea here to put a documentation here. Okay, let's just put one here. Creating account object account 1, and here creating account 2. Now what we're going to do after that, we are going to come here and say testing deposit method with account 1 object, and we'll just put here display.
Should that display the 2 string or just the account 1?
Account 1. This is going to display account 1 only.
Okay.
Yeah, because again, I said account 1. If I want to display account 2, I'll put account 2, of course. Display account 1 info. Now, after that, let's try to take some money out of. Now, as I'm thinking about it, this here will work if we can perform this action. It will be a lot better if I can show a message if we couldn't perform or get this job done. So I'm going to add that later. Well, let's go ahead and test the withdraw. So we'll just go ahead and count 1 dot withdraw. And let's take, let's say, $500 out of that account. And let's see how is that going to affect account 1. So let's go ahead and put this here. And now we're going to put a documentation here. By the way, it's a really good idea to have extra spaces here. Every time you're testing something, put an extra space here. So testing withdraw method with account 1 object. Okay, now we're done with that part. I'm going to go back and change my methods in a sec. Now let's go ahead and try to transfer. So account 1 dot transfer to. Now I'm going to transfer, let's say, 1,000 to account 2. So we're going to come here and put account 2, and we're going to pass 1,000. Semicolon. And after that, I need to display both accounts. So let's go ahead and display the accounts 1 and display account 2. And let's say account 1, this is account 2. And it's a good idea here to add a documentation, testing, transfer to method. Okay. Now let's give this a try and see. And here we go. So this is the first time my account was generated. I got the 1,000. And then after that, I decided to call the withdraw. Sorry, after I performed the deposit, let's start with this. I deposited 1,000. So you will see deposit 1,000. And then after that, you see the account number with the amount that we deposited. And then we have withdraw 500, and then you see the account again, and now 500 has been taken away from it. And where's this deposit 1,000 coming from? Oh, wait a minute. I don't like this part here. If you look at it, let me show you what's going on here. This deposit 1,000 that you see here, it's because if you go back to the implementation of this method, transfer, where's the transfer? Here's transfer. We call the deposit method here. And because we call the deposit method, we know when you're going to deposit, you're going to see this message again printed. So this message of showing the deposit here simply will lead to some confusing. So I need to fix that. So let's go ahead and fix that. Instead of actually depositing the money here, I'm just going to go ahead and say balance. Let me change that. Balance plus equal the amount instead of actually calling the method. So let me just run it again. And that will make more sense. Now let me just go back and put some new lines at the end of each one of those. So I will have extra spaces. And I can do that by going to the toString method and put \n here. Now, if I run it again, I just want to try to get the output to look good. So here we go. We deposit 1,000 into the account. Here's the balance. After that, we withdraw 500 from the same account. So now we got 9,500. And then after that, we transferred 100 to the other account. So show me the account number 1. So after it was 9,500, now it's 8,500, and then 1,000 is going to be the balance for the second account. As you can see here, so far, everything looks okay. Everything looks documented very well. As I was working with this, I realized that I would like to have an else statement here to show a message. So I'm going to do the same thing here. And I will have an else statement here as well. Okay, so what would be the message that is supposed to be printed in case we have an issue here? So let me just go ahead and take system print line. Okay, so in this case, if the amount was not greater than 0, that simply means there's an error in the amount. So we'll just type error in the amount to deposit. Okay, so there's an error in the amount to deposit. Now, this is a case where there could be an error in the deposit, or could be an error in the balance itself. So we need to have a message that will fit for both of them. Let me just think about here. What I can do, I can have a case for each one of them. If, I'll say here, if amount is simply less than 0, we'll show the same message here. else so if the error, if we get to this case and it wasn't the reason, okay, if it wasn't this case, then it's simply going to be the balance could be the reason. And if it's the balance, we need to show a message here. We'll just say, if the balance is not enough to perform the transferring or withdraw, we're just going to say insufficient. I will say fund, insufficient fund. Okay, that will be it. I'll do the same thing here for the other one. So let me copy this. And I'll put it here. And do we need to do that again? No, just those two cases. Now, let's go ahead and put some documentation here. We'll just say print error message if amount is less than 0. So that's what I have here. And let's just put it here in this area here. Of course, I will need to have this also, the same documentation that I had here. We'll put it here at this point and at this point as well. Where did I put it? I think it will be better. I'll just keep it this one here. I'll just move this one from here to be here. Control V. So this is related to this one. And I'll do the same thing here. This one is related to this one. And of course, I need to have another error message, another documentation here for the insufficient fund. Withdraw will not be completed. Okay, so I'll copy this and I'll do the same thing in this area. And instead of withdraw, we'll say transfer. Will not be completed. So here we go. This is a case. So in case, let's just go ahead and try that. Imagine I want to withdraw. After all this, we said we have 8,500. So if I come here and say account number 1, withdraw, let me just copy this. I'm just going to put 9,000 here and to print the information. And then after that, I'm going to repeat this. So now I know this one is not going to complete anything because I will not be able to take the money. So it's going to be kept as 8,500. So here I'm going to try to take 100,000 and transfer it to account 2. I'll simply get that message. Now, in addition to all of those, let's try to transfer money, deposit money, but this time I'm going to put a negative value. So this is I'll put negative, for example. And I can put here, I can comment here. We'll just say the following 3 calls are to the following testing, let's say testing invalid amount, testing invalid amount. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and let me take this one away. Take this one away, because I already explained testing that, but this time I'm repeating the same thing, but this time invalid amount. So let's go ahead and run it. You will notice that no change will be applied. So if I go all the way to the top, you'll see that at the beginning, I deposited 1,000, I then withdraw 500, and then I transferred this, so that's the balance, and here it is. This is my account. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see what's going on here. So this is the first, where is it here? First operation. Here's the second operation. There's the transfer operation. Now, when you transfer the money, it's going to show me the first account and the second account. Okay, I see what's going on here. At this point, here it is, error in the amount of deposit. That's when I try to deposit 1,000, negative 1,000. So no change applied. Insufficient fund. When I try to withdraw 5,000, still have the same thing. And then when I try to transfer more, no changes applied, and insufficient fund. Sorry. Okay, so the last part before I go is I want to talk about it here because this is very, very important. One of the keys of this class. I want you to pay attention to this part here. You can see here, this part and this part is repeated in those two. Whenever you want to withdraw, whenever you want to transfer to, the first thing you're going to do is that you're going to test if you can complete the process by checking the amount and checking the balance. Here's what I want to do. I want to use a method that will do the check and return a true and false for me. And to do so, what I can do, I can come here, for example, and create a new method. Now, this method that I'm going to create is going to check if the sufficient fund is actually available. It's like that amount will have no issues, no problems. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a method called private. A method that's going to be private. Private simply means I don't have access to it inside the main method. It can only be accessed outside of the main method. Okay, even though the main method is actually part of the class, so yes, I can have access to it if I want to, but I'm going to create it as private so I cannot have access to it. If I decide, for example, the main method to be in a different class, I will not be able to have access to it. But this is what we call the helper method. The helper method simply will perform some operations within the class, and you really don't need that outside of the class. So in this case, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come here and create a method, and this method simply is going to be private. And it's going to return a Boolean variable. And I'm going to call it is sufficient funds. And we're going to have a double for the amount. And this method simply will have a very single line here, return. And I'm just going to copy the condition that I have here. Copy that and put it here. So if this Boolean expression is true, is going to return true. If it's false, it's going to return false. So let's go ahead and put a comment here. And is sufficient method. And then after that, I'm going to copy it. And look what I'm going to do. Simply, I'm going to come here and replace all this by typing and passing amount. Okay, this will improve the readability. So basically, instead of having the expression, the Boolean expression here, I'm just having a method called is sufficient and then passing pass. So simply I'm checking if the amount is okay to be used. So if that's the case, again, it's going to return true, otherwise it's going to return false. So I can do the same thing, of course, with the withdraw method. Copy that. And I'll put it here. As you can see here, the whole point of what I just did here is just to show you that you can have a private methods inside a class. This private methods simply are called helper because they simply help the other methods with public specifiers to get some job done. Okay, and that's simply what I did with this. So of course I need to come here and put some documentations. So let's go ahead and put what do we want to talk about this here? This is a private method. To check if there are sufficient funds for transfer and withdraw. Okay, now of course we do have one parameter, so parameter. What is the parameter here? Amount. And that amount simply will be the amount to be checked. So checked. And then after that, we have a return. And we're going to say true if there are sufficient funds. So let's just copy this. Otherwise, return false. And that's it. So of course, if I run it, I will get exactly the same results. Okay. So this is the end of this chapter. We covered everything. And just to let you know, next class, I'm going to see if we have an exercise or not. Let me just, right now, let me double check. So let's go back to, where is it? Assignments. Project 5. I think we talked about Project 5 the other day. So let me just go to the syllabi and let's look at today. Today is 17, so we're working on that. So there's Project 6. We'll go ahead and have a look at Project 6 next class and see what's in Project 6. And we'll try to answer it within the class. Okay, so let me go back to my Eclipse. Everything looks okay. I'm going to upload this video later. The file, I'm going to be uploading it as well. And if you have any questions, of course, let me know. I hope this exercise here helped you understanding how documentations work. And also, just because the helper methods do exist doesn't necessarily mean that you have to create them. But in a lot of cases, it will just be very helpful to have them every once in a while. For example, here, this if statement that I had here, it could be a little bit complicated, like very, very long one. So if you find yourself in a case like that, it's very, very helpful to actually have a method that will perform the operation and just replace that long if statement with a keyword that represents, or sorry, a term that represents what is it checking. And instead of going through the details. And then after that, of course, if somebody want to know how exactly that's performed, they can always come back to the method itself. So let me stop sharing. I'm going to stop recording.